Hello, and welcome to our first interactive homework assignment of the year. Tonight we'll be covering how to use, set up, and why we use Cornell Notes. So to start, get out a piece of notebook paper and set it up as follows. You'll draw a line about 2.5 inches from the left side of the page, straight down from top to bottom. Do not draw this bottom line until the very end of your notes, because if you take more than a page, this section will go on to the next page. At the top, you're going to also draw a line, because above it is where our inquiry question of the day will go. Once you have it set up, you'll see inquiry question at the top. So today, it's how and why should I use Cornell Notes? The right column, the majority of your page, is notes, and the bottom, or on the back side if it goes that far, is your summary. So today we're going to start with what are Cornell Notes. So the first step of Cornell Notes is note-taking. There are 4 stages to Cornell Notes: note-taking, note-making, note-interacting, and note-reflecting. We're going to go through each of these 4 stages of the notes throughout this lecture today. But more importantly than just how do I take them, what is the point of taking notes? There's been studies done that show how much are you going to actually remember of what you learn. If you just get the information, you never look at it again, you don't take notes, how much of that information are you going to hold on to? So, there's this thing called the curve of forgetting. So after you learn something, whether it's in class, at home, you've watched it on TV, within that first minute, you're going to remember 100% of what you learned. Your brain is going to do 2 things with it after that minute. It's going to either try to retain it or get rid of that information, depending on what you do. If you do nothing with that information, within 24 hours, one day, you're going to lose 50 to 80% of what you learned. And if you still do nothing after 1 month, you're going to lose 97% of what you learned. So if you come to class, you take notes, you're working hard, but you never come back to that information, test is a month later, you don't study, you're not going to remember hardly anything that we learned. So in other words, we must use this information or we're going to lose it. So what's a model that we can use to help us remember this information? The model that's been developed is the 10-24-7 model. In this model it says, within 10 minutes of taking notes, you need to review them. So look back at them, look at your main ideas, and just review them. Within 24 hours, you need to revisit your notes. And then 7 days later, you're going to revisit them again for 5 minutes only. And then within the next month, so the next 30 days, you're going to revisit them for only 2 to 4 minutes. And if you follow these steps, you're going to retain about 80 to 100% of what you learn. We'll get into this a little bit more as we discuss it in class tomorrow. So, as you can see on this page, the only part I filled out is the note column. This is the note-taking. I've taken notes. Once we get into the school year, you'll bring these notes to class, and we'll work with these notes to complete the other 3 stages. So then we start making our notes. So we've already taken them, we've looked back at them, now we're going to make them. We're going to talk with our partners in the class. We're going to go back through it, see what is it that I need to know, what information is important, is there any information I can add to my notes. So as you can see, I've used color throughout. So different colors, you should develop a system where different colors represent different things. So in the 4 stages, it'd be nice to know some more details on these stages. We'll get to that throughout the year as we go and practice Cornell note-taking. You can see I've highlighted a curve of forgetting and the 10-24-7 model. Those things jumped out at me as things that I need to know to help me become a better learner. I underlined that I'm going to either retain or get rid of information. That's important because if I want to be successful, I want to retain more than I get rid of. However, I don't know what retain means, so I circled it. I'll come back to that when we get to the interacting piece. And then 10-24-7 model, what if I take some or no notes? So let's discuss that right now. You come to class, you never do your homework, you never take notes in class. Studies show the most you're going to remember is 59% of what you learned. So if you calculate that into a grade, that is a below grade, and you'll never get above a below grade if you never take notes. But Mr. Schumaier, what if I take some notes? I take okay notes, I take half of them. The same study shows you're still only going to remember 59% of what you learned. 59% is still a below. You're not going to be successful in anything that you do when it comes to the notes that you just took. So if you want to be successful with the information, your notes need to be detailed notes. You need to come back to them, interact with them, go through the 10-24-7 model. And if you go through this 10 minutes, 24 hours, 7 days, 30 days, studies show you're going to remember 80 to 100% of what you learned. So you can see this is the note making stage. I've added some details. Maybe you forgot a note that your partner has and you think that's important. You could add that off to the side of wherever it is. Maybe you'll draw pictures to help you remember what it is. So note interacting, I'm going to continue building. I wrote some questions in the column. What does each stage encompass? So I looked through the 4-stage of Cornell notes. I could fold my paper in half here and study these questions. I should be able to answer them based over here. These are questions that I created, not questions that I was given by a teacher. They're things that are going to help me remember the information. You also notice I put a vocab word over here in the definition. It says retain. I didn't know what retain means, so I put the definition because it's used multiple times and I need to know that to understand the notes I took. So retain means to keep hold of, to remember. Maybe I would write something also that is a personal connection that's going to help me remember the information in the notes. So in this small column, you're going to have questions. You're going to have any information that's going to help you remember the main ideas from the note side. So there you just interacted with the notes. The final step is note reflecting. You're going to write a summary. This on this page is at the bottom. Maybe it would be on the back or on another page, depending on how detailed your notes were. But you can see the lecture on Cornell notes explained why notes are important. Without taking good quality notes and reviewing them, I will forget most of what I learned. For example, within 30 days, I will lose 97% of what I learned. If I don't come back to the information, following the 4 steps of Cornell notes will help me be successful. After you've completed your summary, we'll review it. Sometimes you'll get feedback from me as a teacher, sometimes you'll get feedback from classmates, but our notes will not be something we take and just put off to the side. It's going to be something we use over and over to help us remember, retain, and be successful in everything we do. So that's the end of our notes for tonight. Please come prepared tomorrow to ask any questions you may have and or any comments you have that we can clarify as a group. And we're going to be practicing Cornell notes with our lesson on Tuesday. I hope you have a good night. I will see you tomorrow.